All right, peace be upon you, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Now, in today's video, I just want to speak about an excellent quote or an excellent saying which I heard from Jaron from Jaronism. I don't want to use the words because YouTube will censor me, but the guy who likes to question the shape of certain objects we live on, and he understands, generally speaking, the true nature of the object that we live on. And Jaronism, he was just specifically speaking about the globe Earth community, and we're talking about Red's rhetoric and what are these other guys? FTFE, Father Skeptic, just nasty pieces of work, horrendous people, insufferable people. And the thing that he said, which really stuck to me, was so for those of you who are not aware of this debate or this kind of community, this online network of people who debate the nature of what we live on, from both the flat camp and the round camp, if you look at the round camp, the Globies, I mean, these people, they're just vicious. They're vicious, awful people. They can't just make their arguments. They can't say, okay, hey, with you flatties, I mean, that's one of their mean nicknames they actually give us. But hey, with you guys who believe it's flat, this is why we disagree with you. Here's our evidence. The vast majority of them, they have to just hit you with all this vitriol and all these insults. They have all these names to call us. Flat-tards and flurfs, that's a popular one among them. They're always calling us dumb and stupid and illiterate. They get off this stuff, and they can't ever resist an opportunity to call somebody stupid and to make themselves feel smart. You can tell that this is one of the greatest joys they have in life, just calling people dumb and picking on who they feel like are intellectual midgets, which we're not. We have the truth, and they're going to find out the hard way, if not in this life, then in the hereafter, that they are on the wrong side of history. But nonetheless, what Jaron said is, and all these people, remember, they style themselves as smart and genius. They're so intelligent, and every time they frame every time they have a conversation with guys who believe it's flat, they always frame the conversation in this like teacher-student dynamic, but in a very condescending way. Like they talk down to you, like they're trying to instruct you. This is exactly how my debate with FTFE went. You were just not being respectful, talking down to me, and putting me down. And same thing with the PhD Tony. And what Jaron said is, every smart person I've ever met in my life, I'm putting myself in for the first person of Jaron. He said, every smart person I've ever met in my life, somebody who I've truly been impressed with respect to their intellect, they don't spend all day calling other people stupid. And when I heard that, I thought, that is so true. That is so true. Any person that you've met in your life who you've genuinely respected their intelligence, their ability to reason, their ability to control themselves, just somebody you've looked up to as an inspiration, have they spent all of their days calling people stupid and trying to show how everyone is intellectually inferior to them and trying their best to slam dunk in this petty way on others? No, that's not how it is. These people, the Globe camp, they love to just shower themselves with this feeling of just being so smart, such geniuses. They're going to teach us dumb flat-tards how wrong we are, and they get off on this stuff. And again, reflect in your life. Every smart person you have ever met, did they have even the time to call other people dumb, to call people stupid all the time? Me, I disagree with people a lot. I disagree with Hadithans, I disagree with secularists, atheists, people who follow mainstream science, but I don't have the time to call other people dumb. I just don't. I try my best to educate people, and if people don't listen, I move on to the next thing. There's no problem. But this is like the ultimate Dunning-Kruger. You'll notice usually the loudest people are the most insecure, the most aggressive people are the most insecure. The loudest people are the weakest, and also the people who call others stupid most often, and they get off on that, they're the dumbest people in the world. Because if you truly brought value in the world, you were truly filled with wisdom and knowledge, you understood things around you, you would have a lot better things to do than just, let's put ourselves in the globe earther's position. I'm a globe earther now, okay? I have this small I mean, okay, in our position as people who understand that the shape of what we live on is flat, uh, we are a small group and we're going against a majority. We're going against a system, a matrix, a sea of lies, right? It's quite an uphill battle. But from the Globe's camp, almost everybody, the average person, pretty much without fail, believes the Earth is a globe. They agree with the globe guys, right? They're in agreement with them. Us flat tards, we are a small inconsequential minority of people, a minority of a minority of a minority. If I was really a smart guy, filled with wisdom, filled with knowledge, would I feel the need to go and pick on and intellectually size up on and flex on and make fun of such a small, inconsequential group of people all the time? Is that something that I would do? Especially considering that the universities are on my side, the majority of people are on my side. My ideology is what's taught. My ideology is winning. It's the de rigueur today. Would I feel the need to go and flex up on this small group of mentally retarded people? No. This clearly shows a deep set insecurity within them. And Dunning-Kruger, and for those of you who don't know what Dunning-Kruger is, the Dunning-Kruger effect is when somebody who has inferior abilities, inferior knowledge, that same person overestimates their abilities and knowledge. So they just think themselves so smart and so strong when in reality they're weaker and stupider than most people around them. And, it's like, to put it in more of kind of an Islamic perspective, it would be like, let's say I'm a Sunni, okay? I'm a Sunni and I spend all my time picking on what's a small minority group. Actually, but forget even being a Sunni. Let's say I'm a Christian or even a Sunni, doesn't matter. I follow some mainstream religion which is taught to millions of people, okay? I'm an Orthodox or Catholic Christian or a Sunni Muslim, and I spend all my time picking on Yazidis and just calling them dumb, calling them retarded, calling them stupid. You probably don't even know what Yazidism is. It's such a small religion. And I make a whole YouTube channel specifically dedicated to Yazidism and slam dunking on them. And, even just the insults that they use. They call us intellectual pigeons and retarded, slow. My puppy knows better science than you. Did you not even go to first grade? Just these vicious insults that you can see these people in the comment sections of these debates and videos and whatnot. They can't resist just picking on people who they feel are retarded. Like, if I genuinely felt a position was so small and fringe and retarded, it was just filled with stupid people, I wouldn't even feel the need to go and pick on them. I'm just going to go and find something more important to do. But this all comes back to what Jaron said, which is something we should reflect on and something we should keep in our mind. Just not even with the whole shape of the earth debate, really when dealing with anybody. Just ask yourself, if somebody is so quick to insult and so quick to establish their own authority and intelligence, any smart person you have ever met or heard in your life, have they ever behaved in that way? And the answer is no. It just exposes their own intellectual ineptitude. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's really all I got to say on the matter. I hope this talk was a blessing. And yeah, peace to you. Remember, deceit abounds, so keep your eyes wide open. Peace out. Peace and blessings in the name of the Most High, viewer. My name is Walid Naeem, and I am a zealous submitter to the one true God, the creator of all mankind. Do you notice something wrong with the world? Something strange? Despite us having a church, synagogue, and mosque in every neighborhood, how has this entire Western civilization fallen into abject atheism, nihilism, and savagery? Why does life just seem so dull, so meaningless, and so devoid of anything real in the Occidental world? Despite the ubiquitous presence of these religious institutions, why are our so-called Muslim sons in large numbers drinking, smoking, partying, and chasing after women, with no seeming desire to do anything more with their life other than satisfy their base pleasures, when God has commanded them to be clean, righteous, and responsible leaders of their community? And why are our hijabi so-called Muslim daughters walking around with tight jeans that reveal their figure, with TikTok accounts posting semi-provocative, self-absorbed videos of themselves online for the world to see when God has commanded them to lengthen their garments and be modest in their mannerisms. What has happened here? These young men and women are supposed to be making themselves right before God while raising the next generation of ardent defenders of the holy faith. But it seems that Islam features no more in their lives other than a scarf on their head, a Friday fidgeting around in the mosque when their parents forced them to go against their will, or a decorative hanger in their car. At this rate, if God allows us to continue going down the road it is, then Islam and the Quran will become pretty much non-existent in the lives of most of our descendants, if it wasn't already non-existent now. If we do not take a stand soon, in a few generations our children's children will likely be indistinguishable from the secular West. Is that the kind of world we want to live in? Our kids to live in? A world practically devoid of the remembrance of the one God and all things sane? I obviously can't speak for you, but for my own self, I can personally say, count me out of it. I'm not going to sit here and just watch my brothers and sisters, those who claim to believe in God alone, believe in Judgment Day, His prophets and angels, and all the other aspects of this holy creed, get duped into going to hell. I'm not going to let this happen without at least something of an effort on my end to reroute this dark trajectory. So, again, how in the world do we end up here? There is a mosque in practically every neighborhood in the West, and no shortage of donations that get dropped in their boxes. They have had lots of funding, lots of time, and unquestioning support from their respective congregations, yet somehow have been run over by the secular atheist. All of their so-called Muslim children go to the atheist, secular public schools for most of their week to be taught beliefs that are completely incompatible with the Quran. And we wonder why they have ended up the way they are. If these houses, and by these houses I mean the mosques, were truly of God, that were doing everything right, then why would our Lord let them get so decisively trampled upon by their enemies? Why do the wicked have all of the reins of power here? Clearly, something is not adding up. Well, it is my thesis here today that the vast, vast majority of mosques that exist in this world today have lost their way and follow a religion which is completely foreign to the Quran. This is why they have failed so miserably in the West, and it seems that God has forgotten them. In truth, the real reason behind their shortcoming is that they, and many of us, have forgotten God Himself, which is why He has left us here collecting our bitter receipts. So, what are my exact criticisms of the mosques today? As a Muslim and a man committed to the truth above all else, what are my personal gripes with their institution, which claims to be for God? The first glaring problem I can think of is that the majority of people who call themselves Muslim have allied themselves with a body of literature that is foreign to the Word of God, treating it equal to, and in fact above, the Quran itself. Of course, I am talking about the Hadith. Listen, the facts are this. There is no justification within the Quran which tells us to follow this Hadith stuff, which came hundreds of years after the Prophet Muhammad died, and therefore he could have had no ability to oversee what people have said about him and determine if it is true or false. It is now becoming crystal clear, especially in the last 10 to 20 years, that many, many things that have been ascribed to him in their most quote-unquote authoritative texts, which they call their Sahih Hadiths, are forgeries that directly contradict God's final revelation. To take these words of men, i.e. the Hadith, and hold them to be equally authoritative to the words of God would be breaking the first and most important commandment, which is to worship God alone, making no equals with Him. To say that these supposed words of Muhammad, which are not even Muhammad's own words, but simply very doubtful rumors about what people who existed hundreds of years after him say he said, that have been decided upon by the scholars as authoritative, holds equal, or in fact any weight in our faith comparable to the verbatim words of God Himself, the Holy Quran, is idolatry. You are exalting man's words to the status of divinity, which should only be given to God's words. Nothing comes even close to the Quran, because God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, is its author. This includes the Hadith too, which pales in comparison and is superfluous to the glorious Quran. If you are interested in seeing a full refutation of the Hadith, you may watch my video titled A Defense of Prophet Muhammad, David Wood and Hadith Exposed, which is linked below. In it, along with refuting and putting in his place the worst opponent of Islam on the internet, Mr. David Wood, I also expose how the Hadith is completely contradictory to the Quran and the source of much of the Muslim world's problems. It is a 2-hour long documentary where I seek to demonstrate the true character of Muhammad in the Quran, defending his history and personality with primary source quotations. I clear the last prophet of God's name from the people who have tarnished his reputation the most, which are certain types of Christians, and, sad to say, Hadith following Muslims, which have said many terrible things about him. No, Muhammad was not a money-hungry, tyrannical warlord who married a 6-year-old girl. He was a shy, humble, meek man who married adult women, had compassion for even his worst enemies, and oftentimes had a tough time even standing up for himself out of fear of hurting other people's feelings. This is all demonstrated in detail in my video. Once again, the link for that will be in the description under the tab, The True Character of Muhammad in the Quran. So that is the first problem with the mosques, the reason for which I feel they have been forsaken by God, their adoption of an apostate literature which contradicts their foundational scripture. The second point of contention I have with many of the mosques is their seeming unwillingness to say anything controversial which may make them face persecution from their government. The fact that 9/11 was not only an inside job, but the fact that no planes hit the Twin Towers on that day, and the whole charade was a hoax designed by the governments of the world to forever frame the Muslim people as terrorists and justify invasions in our countries, should be taught to every man, woman, and child. This great fraud of the September attacks has left such a lasting, enduring reputation on every brown person, and Muslim in general, that it should be discussed in every mosque. Our people are not responsible for that crime, but it was the governments of the world who carried out that plot and framed us for it. 9/11 is just only one small example, though. There are many, many other quote-unquote conspiracy theories, which are really just conspiracy facts, avoided by the mosques due to their controversy, like the fact that the monetary system in the West is an ungodly scam based on usury, the fact that the so-called healthcare system is a predatory empire which doesn't try to cure anybody, but instead makes money off of human suffering, the fact that sodomite propaganda is being promoted to the masses, including our children, and the fact that the thing which I will call the C-19er, to avoid censorship, was a hoax perpetrated by the powers that be to greatly expand their police state, censorship incentives, and surveillance systems worldwide in order to create their new world order, and much more. These governments that have occupied our lands are de facto terrorist regimes, and the mosques seem to say nothing of it. They appear to be more concerned with not being labeled extremists while they live their comfortable, well-funded lives, avoiding topics that are hard to deal with due to the abject persecution they bring. That is my second problem with them. They're at the very least lack of awareness, or if not, perhaps lack of willingness to address the real geopolitical situation going on in the world. And lastly, my third trouble with the mainstream mosques, which can also be put into the category of conspiracy facts, is their complete ignorance on the true nature of the earth. It may sound as a shock to you, my viewer, that the Quran, the Bible, and in fact all of the ancient scriptures teach the earth is flat and stationary. This is the only model of the world which is compatible with those texts and also scientifically provable. This flat earth conspiracy, which should really be called the globe earth conspiracy, is one of the biggest lies of the modern world, we are told, and goes in line with what I said earlier about the endemic corruption of the governments of the world. Everything you have been told about where you live is a fabrication, and the space agencies are a shameless hoax. For a fully detailed presentation on the subject of flat earth, where I demonstrate the science, the history, the philosophy, the verses in the Bible and Quran proving it, and much more, you can read my book titled The Flat Earth Manifesto, which is linked in the description. This work runs to nearly 1,200 pages and is practically a textbook on not only the topic of flat earth, but the subject of physics proper, and I expose the biggest fraudulent religion of the West, which is science worship, otherwise known as scientism. As with all of my work, it too is available for free. No, you do not live on a pathetic speck of dust spinning around in the middle of nowhere in space. You live in a brilliant, intelligently designed terrarium created by God and are at the center of the universe. Again, to learn more, the link to the Flat Earth Manifesto will be in the description. Those right there are my 3 biggest scores against the mosques of today. There are more points I could bring up, but these are the major ones. These are the controversies which have estranged me from the rest of the so-called Muslim world. Believe me when I say that I would love to join them, and that it hurts me so deeply that I have to pit myself up against the very institution I was born and raised in, the mosques I attended from childhood, whose carpets upon which I walked, stood, prayed, and listened to the preaching in my earliest years. But that is the price to pay for the truth. My commitment to God and what is right is more important than my emotional attachments to a place that was once dear to my heart. Simply put, this is why I think God has forsaken us. This is why I think that the mosques have been steamrolled by the secular atheist. It is because most of us have abandoned the word of God, neglected preaching the truth, and instead chosen comfort over courageous action. That is my thesis to why this great falling away in the West has taken place. If this sounds shocking to you, if it sounds so unbelievable that the majority of the so-called Muslim world could be deceived so badly, then I simply have these verses in the Quran to show you. In the name of God, the Almighty and the Merciful. Chapter 6, verse 116. And if thou obey most of those upon the earth, they will lead thee astray from the path of God. They follow only assumption, and they are only guessing. Chapter 25, verse 30. And the messenger will say, O my Lord, my people took this Quran as a thing abandoned. God has really predicted this a millennia ago. He knew that the people who follow what is really right are few and far between, that the majority of men and women are led astray, and the people who claim to love Muhammad the most, i.e. mainstream Muslims, would abandon the glorious Quran. God has revealed to us 1,000 years ago that this all would be the case. It is my mission, therefore, by the will of God, to band together with like-minded believers who have understood the truth and work together to build a new institution from the ground up, founded upon prudent fear. We need to start fresh, start anew. We need to build a new mosque where people can hear the unfiltered preaching from the Quran alone, where men and women can get married, where children can play and be educated in the truth, and where the name of the Most High God, without any associate partners, can be remembered. We need a group of highly dedicated men who will raise and defend this institution with their own hands if need be, and go out into the world warning people of the punishment of God, bearing witness to the truth of his oneness. That is my mission, my viewer. If you found that this mission of mine has touched your heart and is something you want to get involved with, then feel free to contact me in the email below. I am located in Ontario, Canada, and I'm looking forward to form a community with like-minded believers who want to contribute to this great cause. I am neither a nationalist nor racially biased. If you follow the Quran alone and believe in the truth, then as far as I'm concerned, you are my brother in the faith. I prefer you over someone of my own kindred who denies God and commits corruption in the earth. My loyalties are primarily ideological, not racial. Remember, my viewer, that this life is short. Everything we do and don't do is recorded by God and will either bear witness for us or against us on the day of judgment. Hell is eternal, and I do not know about you, but as for me, I want to meet my Creator in the best state possible. I want to spend my life struggling to build up my people, the true Muslims, so that God may be pleased with me on that day. If you are interested in that, then feel free to join me. If not, then find something else good to do which will prepare you for your appointment with the Most High. That is where we are all going anyway. With that being said, I say peace and God bless to all of you good people. Take care, everyone.